Riley Gaines, a 12-time All-American champion swimmer and spokesperson for the Independent Women's Forum, is with us right now. Riley, first of all, hello. Thank you for talking about this. You hear a lot of lawmakers with very strong opinions. I want to know what it's like for you as an athlete and your fellow athletes. What is this debate about?
Being someone who was directly impacted by this, at our national championships in swimming last year, we were forced to compete against biological male Leah Thomas. So being someone who was directly impacted by this and feeling what I felt and seeing what I saw in regards to how the other girls felt, I can wholeheartedly attest to the fact that this is not something that we're okay with. Of course, there aren't as many people speaking out and being vocal about this, but I can wholeheartedly attest to the tears that I saw from these girls who, just like myself, had worked our entire lives to get to that point, who missed out on being named an All-American by one place. And I can wholeheartedly attest to the discomfort in the locker room and the whispers and the talks of grumbles of anger and frustration from these girls. This is not something that we're okay with.
And when you say the tears, when you say the frustration, you mentioned Leah Thomas. Her name was all over the news for quite a stretch, as some would say she was making history, and others were saying it was just another unfair example of how women are treated differently in athletics. So why were you and your teammates so frustrated?
The competition that we faced was entirely unfair. Looking at Leah Thomas, who was formerly Will Thomas, the year prior, when Leah was competing as Will amongst the men, was ranked 462nd in the nation at best, and now trailing the women, dominating every other woman in the country by body lengths. That right there tells you this is not fair, but the NCAA, they did not care. Our coaches, they did not care that it was unfair. They didn't care that we were losing out on fairness and equal opportunities and privacy and safety in our sports. It was essentially as if we didn't matter and our feelings didn't matter.
And when we talk about this, we can't help but talk about the biological differences, even with hormone replacement therapies between a man's body and a woman's body. You are actually leading a petition called Save Our Sports in response to the Biden administration's proposed rule change to is it Title IX?
Yes, the proposed rule change that the Biden administration is pushing would essentially change it from where it is supposed to prevent discrimination on the basis of sex, but they want to rewrite it to where it would prevent discrimination on the basis of gender identity. So what this means is, of course, men could be in women's sports, they could join sororities, they could live in dorm rooms with women, they would have full access to all bathrooms and changing spaces on campus, which, again, it only harms women. And so this petition, we're garnering support from women, actually men, women, the general public across the country who is fed up with this and who is wanting to do something about it and allow their voice to be heard. That's what this petition is. And it's garnered a lot of support, which is really phenomenal.
And it's interesting because you're a young woman. I don't have to ask your age, but people would be able to look at you and know you're of a younger generation. There are a lot of times with these discussions around transgender rights that this is something that is on the precipice of this new era of inclusivity, that this is all about what we are facing as a nation and what we should be talking about. But there are a lot of young people who disagree, that think that this is going overboard. So just maybe speak to those who might not understand why you all are so upset, because to some people, a transgender woman born biologically male is a woman.
Right. What I'm proposing in regards to the fairness in women's sports, it's not to say people don't struggle with gender dysphoria. It's not to say that trans people don't exist. It's not to say that trans people aren't entitled to rights. It's just fighting for our rights as women, because what we just experienced at our national championships was entirely discrimination on the basis of sex, which is everything that Title IX was created to protect. My whole argument is rooted in fairness. It is not anti-trans. Of course, I believe trans people should compete in sports, and I believe trans individuals have rights as well, of course. It's pro-woman and it's pro-fairness. That's what we're fighting for. That's the entire argument.
And do you guys have anybody on your team that can actually speak to the differences that somebody born biologically male would have an upper hand or an advantage because of that, the makeup of their body, the strength of their biceps and their triceps and their pecs compared to a female body? I mean, have you all looked into that at all?
Absolutely, we have. At my university, of course, we have a men's and women's team. every man on the men's team, regardless of if you're a walk-on, you could be the worst man on the team and you're beating the best woman on the women's team by body lengths. In sports such as swimming, lung capacity is extremely important. The size of your heart, which is of course what pumps your blood to your muscles, which is then oxygenated by your lungs. Of course, limb size, your height, but it sounds silly. Even in swimming, it's really important, especially, but men have a 40% larger throat than women. And all of these little things, they add up to factors that contribute to success and athletic performance. It is entirely unfair to have someone who has gone through male puberty competing against the woman, even if you're taking hormone suppressants. The guidelines that were in place for our national championships were just 12 months of hormone suppressants, which is not enough to mitigate male advantage. And we know this. We know this solely off of the rankings of Leah Thomas.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.